In this video, we will go over the concepts found in Grammar 2H. These concepts include linking and action verbs, quotation marks, comparative and superlative adjectives, and sentence diagramming. So let's go over the linking action verb first, and we're going to focus on linking verb. A linking verb is a type of verb that connects a subject with more information about the subject. So let's look at an example. We have the girl was glad. Our subject is the girl, so we're going to underline that. And what other information are we learning about her in this sentence? That she was glad. So we're going to put a square around that just so we can differentiate it. So what word is connecting the girl to glad? That would be was. And that will be our verb in this sentence. It's linking girl to glad, therefore it is a linking verb. Now let's look at an action verb. An action verb is a verb that shows action and tells what the subject did or does. So let's look at an example. We have the dog barks at the car. Once again, let's find the subject. It would be the dog. And what is the dog doing in this sentence? It's barking. So barks would be our action verb, and we aren't linking dog to any extra information other than the verb itself, and that we are seeing what he is doing in this subject or in this sentence. So that will be the difference between the linking and the action verbs. Next, we're going to go over quotation marks. Here we're going to look at quotations at the beginning of a sentence. So our first step is to make sure we have quotes around what is being said. So here we have our quotes. And then once again, we want to treat what is in the quotation marks like its own sentence. So we need to capitalize that first letter, which would be I in this sentence, and then we need some kind of ending punctuation mark. Notice in this one that we don't use an actual ending punctuation mark, we use a comma, and that's because it's not really the end of the sentence, it's just the end of what's being quoted. So we don't want to put a real period there, instead we just want a placeholder, so we're going to use a comma. And then we are going to put a period at the end of the actual sentence, so after the suje, and then we want to make sure that we capitalize any other important words in this sentence. So in this instance, it would be suje. We capitalize that because that is a proper noun. Next, we're going to go over how to do it with a question. So we have, are you going to the zoo? Ask suje. And so once again, we want to put quotes around what is being said. We're capitalizing that first letter because this is a sentence within a sentence pretty much. And then our ending punctuation mark is actually a question mark in this quoted dialogue. And the reason we're not using a comma is because it's not a statement, it is a question. So we need to make sure that we use the appropriate punctuation mark. But notice that it's not the end of the sentence, we are putting a period at the end. So just remember that just the ending punctuation mark goes there or a comma, it won't be both at the end of that sentence. And then we just want to capitalize anything else that needs to be capitalized, like suje, and we have correctly capitalized and punctuated this sentence. Now we're going to move on to comparative and superlative adjectives. So let's read through the rules presented in this book. We have double the last letter if the word ends in a consonant except Y or W with one vowel before it. So an example of this would be hot. We have it ending in a consonant, T, and O comes before it, the vowel. So we have the comparative form, which is hotter, and the superlative form, which is hottest. So we're going to move on to the next one, and we have if the word ends with a W at ER or EST. So our example is slow, and that could be converted into slower, and then slowest. And our last rule is if the word ends with a Y, change the Y to an I and add ER or EST. So our example is heavy, and that could be changed into heavier or heaviest. So let's look at examples of comparative adjectives first. We have the sentence, this pancake is flat. Now we're going to change that into a comparative form so that we have the sentence, this pancake is flatter than that one. Notice that we've changed that one T into two T's, we've added one, and then we're adding ER to the end to make it a comparative form. Let's look at one more. We have the pancake is tasty. And then we have the sentence, the waffle is tastier than the pancake. Notice that we've changed the the Y in tasty to an I in tastier and added ER to make it a comparative form that ends in a Y initially. Next, we're going to look at superlative adjectives. We're going to use the same examples. So the first one is the pancake is flat, and we're going to make this into a superlative adjective. So we have the pancake is the flattest of all. Notice once again that T is going to have a partner now, and there are two T's, and we're adding EST at the end of flat. So now we're going to look at the pancake is tasty again, and now we're going to change it into a superlative form so that we have the pancake is the tastiest breakfast. Notice that Y turned into an I, and we've added EST. Remember that you use the superlative form when you are comparing one thing to multiple other things, comparative form when you're comparing one thing to another thing. Our last concept is going to be sentence diagramming. And so let's look at the basic structure first. We're going to be looking at sentence diagramming with linking verbs in this section. So we start with our subject, and then right after that is going to be the linking verb. Those are separated by a vertical line. And then we're going to have more information about the subject, which is going to be separated from the verb with a diagonal line. And then, as always, we put articles and adjectives describing the subject underneath the subject, connected by diagonal lines. So let's look at a sentence. We have the green car is clean. Well, let's create our little tableau. Here we go. And then let's start with the basics. What is the subject? The car. The car is the subject in the sentence. Does it have anything describing it? Yes. The and green. So we're going to write those on the diagonal lines underneath the subject. Our verb is, and then our extra information that is being linked to the subject is clean. So that's going to go after the diagonal line on the baseline where you see the subject and the verb also. So if you have any questions or concerns about this book, please contact the person who grades your grammar at the center.